The large silver ship moved slowly through space toward the blue and green planet. Captain Zixathara stood on the bridge looking at the world below through the main window. Her purple skin had dark spots that changed color when she felt excited or worried. Right now they were getting darker. "Sir, we are getting closer to the third planet," said Officer Quillnox from his station. His long fingers moved across the control panel like a spider walking on glass. "The signals are getting stronger." Captain Zixathara nodded. She had been studying this world for many weeks. The people who lived there sent radio waves and television signals into space. They had cities with bright lights that could be seen from far away. They seemed like most other young races in the galaxy. Not too smart, but not too dumb either. "What do our computers tell us about them?" she asked. "They call themselves humans," said Dr. Meridian, the ship's science officer. Her blue crystal body sparkled as she moved. "They live on most of the land areas. They have wars sometimes, but they also work together. They are just starting to send small ships into space around their world." "Perfect," said Captain Zixathara. "They are ready for first contact. Not too early, not too late." The ship called Starweaver was big enough to hold 500 beings from different worlds. There were tall gray Altarians with their large black eyes. There were the green vegan, traders who looked like walking plants. There were crystal people like Dr. Meridian who came from worlds made of rock and metal. They all worked together for the Galactic Federation, a group of smart races that helped young worlds join the galaxy community. Down on Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working late at her research station in the mountains of Oregon. She studied space signals and looked for signs of life on other worlds. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she did not notice. The computer screen in front of her showed something very strange. "Jake, come look at this," she called to her partner. Jake Morrison walked over from his desk. He was eating a sandwich and had crumbs on his shirt. "What is it now, Elena? Another satellite giving us bad readings?" "No, this is different." Elena pointed at the screen. "Look at these patterns. They are too regular to be natural, and they are getting stronger." Jake looked at the wavy lines on the screen. At first they looked like normal space noise, but as he watched, he could see that Elena was right. The signals had a pattern that repeated every few minutes. "Maybe it is just solar activity," he said, but he did not sound sure. "Solar activity does not move in a straight line toward Earth," Elena said. She pressed some buttons and the computer made new calculations. "Whatever is making these signals is about 2 million miles away and coming closer fast." Jake stopped, eating his sandwich. "How fast?" "Fast enough to be here in less than 2 days. Within 6 hours, every big telescope on Earth was looking at the same spot in space. Scientists in different countries called each other on the phone. Government officials had secret meetings. Military leaders looked at their weapons and wondered if they would work against visitors from space. But the thing that made Captain Zixathara most interested was not the human cities or their simple spaceships. Her science team had found something in the forests that did not make sense. "Sir, you need to see this," Dr. Meridian said. She put a new image on the main screen. It showed the northwest part of the North American continent covered in thick green forests. "What am I looking at?" Captain Zixathara asked. "These forests are giving out heat patterns that do not match our databanks," Dr. Meridian said. "All forests make heat from the animals and plants living in them. But these forests make heat in patterns that look almost like thinking." "Thinking forests?" Officer Quillnox laughed. "That is impossible." "I thought so too," Dr. Meridian said. "But look at this." She pressed a control, and the image changed to show the heat as different colors. Red was hottest, blue was coldest. The heat moves through the forest in waves. It starts in one place and spreads out like ripples in water. Then it comes back. It looks like the forest is sending messages to itself. Captain Zixathara studied the image for a long time. In all her years of exploring space, she had never seen anything like this. Plants that could think were just stories that people told to scare children. "Could the humans be doing something to make this happen?" she asked. "No, sir," Dr. Meridian said. "The humans stay mostly on the edges of these forests. They cut down trees for wood, and build roads through them, but they do not seem to know about the heat patterns. Sir, Officer Quilnock said from his station. I am getting readings from other forests on the planet too. The big forest in South America is doing the same thing. So is the one in Northern Asia. Captain Zixthara felt her spots getting darker. This was not what she had expected to find. Young planets were supposed to be simple. Plants grew, animals ate plants, smart animals learned to use tools and build cities. That was how it worked on every world in the galaxy. We need to investigate. Before we make contact with the humans, she decided. Choose 3 team members for a landing mission. Send them to the forest area with the strongest signals. Sir, should we not make contact with the humans first? Officer Quilnox asked. That is the normal way. Nothing about this planet is normal, Captain Zixthara said. We need to understand what we are dealing with before we introduce ourselves. Dr. Meridian selected the landing team. Officer Quilnox would go because he was the best at finding his way around new places. She would go herself to study the strange forest. Security Officer Krentar would go to keep them safe. He was a big red creature with 4 arms and skin like armor. The mission is simple, Captain Zixthara told them. Land in the forest area, take readings, find out what is making these patterns, and come back. Do not contact any humans unless you have no choice. The 3 team members got into a small ship that could become invisible. It was designed to study new worlds without being seen. They would land in the forest, spend a few hours investigating, and return with answers. As their ship left the Starweaver and headed down toward Earth, none of them knew that they were about to discover something that would change how the entire galaxy thought about life, intelligence, and the true nature of growing things. Down in the forests of Earth, ancient roots felt the vibration of their approach. The small alien ship became invisible and dropped through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. Officer Quilnox guided it toward the thick forests of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. His long fingers moved across the controls while he watched the green land grow larger below them. Landing zone selected, he said to his team members. Large clearing ahead. No human activity detected within 5 miles. Dr. Meridian checked her science equipment one more time. The crystal, spikes on her back glowed brighter when she felt excited. Right now, they were almost white. The heat signatures are much stronger now that we are closer. Whatever is causing them is definitely in this forest. Security Officer Krentar tested his weapons and looked at the forest through the ship's cameras. His 4 red arms moved quickly as he prepared his gear. These trees are very tall, good places to hide, we must be careful. The ship landed softly in a clearing surrounded by giant Douglas fir trees. Some of the trees were so big that 10 humans holding hands could not reach around them. Moss hung from their branches like green curtains. The forest floor was covered with fallen leaves and thick bushes. Remember, Officer Quilnox said as they prepared to leave the ship, we observe only, no contact with humans. Take readings and return quickly. The 3 aliens stepped out of their invisible ship and into the Earth forest. The air smelled different than the recycled air on their spaceship. It smelled alive, full of growing things and rich dirt and water. Dr. Meridian held up her scanner and frowned. This is very strange. The readings are even more confusing now that we are here. What do you mean? Krentar asked. His warrior training made him watch the shadows between the trees. The heat patterns are not just coming from the surface, they go deep underground. Very deep, and they connect to each other like a web that spreads for miles in every direction. 20 miles away, Park Ranger Danny Walsh was driving his truck down a dirt road through the same forest. He had worked in these woods for 20 years. He knew every trail, every stream, every place where tourists got lost. His radio crackled with static as he tried to call his partner. Lisa, do you copy? The radio is acting up again. Lisa Parker's voice came through the static. She was 10 miles north, checking on a campground. I copy, Danny. My equipment is going. Crazy too. Must be solar storms or something. Danny stopped his truck and got out. He had learned to trust his feelings about the forest. Something felt different today. The birds were too quiet. The air had a strange feeling to it, like the moment before lightning strikes. Lisa, I am going to check the Carson Creek area on foot. Something does not feel right. Be careful, Danny. Call in every 30 minutes. Danny put on his backpack and started walking into the forest. He had walked these same paths thousands of times, but today every step felt like he was being watched. Back at the landing site, the three aliens were making discoveries that scared them. Dr. Meridian's scanners showed that the root systems under the forest were not normal. Instead of each tree having its own roots, all the roots were connected to each other in a giant network. Look at this, she said, showing her readings to the others. The trees are sharing more than water and food through their roots. They are sharing information. Electrical signals are moving through the network faster than our computers can track. Officer. Quilnox checked his navigation equipment. That explains why my instruments are confused. The electrical activity is interfering with our systems. Security Officer Krentar noticed something else that made him worried. The trees are moving. Trees always move in the wind, Dr. Meridian said without looking up from her scanner. There is no wind, Krentar said. The other two aliens looked up and saw that he was right. The giant trees around them were slowly turning their branches toward the clearing where the aliens stood. There was no wind, but the trees moved anyway. It was like they were trying to get a better look at their visitors. We should return to the ship, Officer Quilnox said. His voice sounded nervous. Wait, Dr. Meridian said. Look at these tree trunks. She pointed to marks carved into the bark of the nearest tree. The marks looked like symbols or letters, but not from any language. The aliens knew. The strange thing was that the wood around the symbols looked fresh and healthy, like the tree had grown around the marks to keep them clear and easy to see. How old are these marks? Krentar asked. Dr. Meridian ran her scanner over the symbols. The marks are very old, thousands of years old, but the tree has been keeping them clean and visible. It is like the tree wants someone to be able to read them. Trees do not want things, Officer Quilnox said. But he did not sound sure. While the aliens studied the symbols, Danny Walsh was getting closer to their location. His 20 years in the forest had taught him to notice small changes. Today he noticed that his footsteps sounded different. Usually when he walked on the forest floor, he heard the normal sounds of leaves crunching and twigs breaking. Today the forest seemed to absorb the sounds of his footsteps, like the ground was listening to him. He also noticed that he was not seeing any animals, no squirrels running through the trees, no birds flying between the branches. Even the insects seemed to be hiding. The forest was waiting for something. Dr. Meridian made another discovery that frightened her. Her deep-range scanners could detect the root network extending far beyond what should be possible. The connected roots spread under the entire Olympic Peninsula and connected to other forest areas hundreds of miles away. This is not just one forest, she told her team members. All the forests in this region are connected underground. They are sharing information across distances that should be impossible for plants. Security Officer Krentar felt his warrior instincts telling him to run. In all his battles across the galaxy, he had learned to trust those feelings. We have enough information, we should leave now. But as they turned to go back to their ship, they heard human footsteps approaching through the trees. Someone was coming toward their landing site, and their invisible ship would not protect them if the human walked right into it. Danny Walsh stepped into the clearing just as the three aliens realized they had been discovered. For a moment, none of them moved. The park ranger stared at three creatures that his mind could not understand. The alien stared at a human who had found them despite all their technology, and in the trees around them, something much older and more intelligent. Then either humans or aliens began to wake up from a very long sleep. Danny Walsh stood at the edge of the clearing and stared at three creatures that should not exist. His mind tried to make sense of what he was seeing. One looked like a tall gray person with very long fingers. Another looked like it was made of blue crystal that sparkled in the sunlight. The third was big and red with 4 arms and skin that looked like armor. The alien stared back at the human park ranger. This was not supposed to happen. Their ship was invisible. Their mission was secret. But somehow this human had walked right to them. Do not move, Security Officer Krentar said in his own language. His 4 hands reached for his weapons. Wait, Dr. Meridian whispered. Look at him. Danny Walsh was not running or screaming like most humans would. He was not reaching for a weapon or a radio. He was just standing very still, like he was listening to something they could not hear. Human, Officer Quilnock said, using the Earth, language their computers had learned from radio signals. You are not supposed to be here. Danny heard the alien speak, but the words seemed to come from far away. Something else was talking to him now. Not with words, but with feelings and pictures that appeared in his mind. The forest around him was speaking, and somehow he could understand. The trees were old, much older than he had thought. They remembered things from before humans learned to make fire. They remembered ice ages and warm periods. They remembered when the first people came to these lands. And they remembered other visitors who had come from the stars long ago. The forest, Danny said slowly. It is talking. Dr. Meridian's crystal spikes began glowing brighter. Her scanners were detecting electrical activity in Danny's brain that matched the signals coming from the tree roots under their feet. That is impossible, Officer Quilnock said. Humans cannot communicate with plants. But even as he said it, the trees around them began to change. The branches moved without wind. The leaves rustled with sounds that were almost like whispers. The ground under their feet felt warm, like something large was breathing beneath the soil. 20 miles away, Lisa Parker was getting worried. Danny had not called in for over an hour. She tried his radio again and got only static. She started driving toward his last known location. As she drove, she noticed that her truck's electrical systems were acting strange. The radio kept switching stations by itself. The GPS showed her location jumping around the map. Even her compass was spinning like it could not find magnetic north. Back in the clearing, something was happening to all four beings. Danny Walsh felt the forest connecting to his mind more strongly. The three aliens felt their own thoughts being pulled into the same network that connected all the trees. What is happening to us? Officer Quilnock asked, but his voice sounded different, deeper, like it was coming from the Earth itself. Dr. Meridian watched her scanners with amazement and fear. The root network under the forest was not just sharing information between trees. It was sharing information with any intelligent mind that came close enough. The network was learning about humans from Danny's memories. It was learning about the galaxy from the aliens' knowledge. The forest is reading our minds, she said. Security Officer Krentar tried to break free from whatever was touching his thoughts. His warrior training told him to fight. But when he tried to move, his legs would not obey him. Something much stronger than his muscles was holding him in place. The whispers in the leaves grew louder. Now they could all hear them, even though the sounds were not quite words in any language they knew. The forest was trying to speak to them directly. Through Danny's mind, images began to flow. The aliens saw Earth as it had been millions of years ago. They saw the first forests growing and spreading across the continents. But these were not normal forests. From the very beginning, the trees had been connected by more than roots. They shared thoughts and memories. They learned and grew together as one giant mind. This cannot be real, Officer Quilnock said, but he could see the truth in the images flowing through his mind. Earth's forests were alive in a way that no planet in the galaxy had ever been alive. Danny saw images from the aliens' memories. He saw other worlds with forests, but those forests were normal. Each tree lived and died alone. Only on Earth had the forests learned to think together as one mind. Dr. Meridian's equipment detected something that made her crystal body shake with fear. The forest network was not limited to this planet. Her deep space scanners found signals going out from Earth toward other star systems. The forest was talking to something far away in space. It is connected to forests on other worlds, she whispered. The revelation hit all of them at the same time. Earth's forest was not alone. Across the galaxy, on every world where complex plant life had evolved, similar networks existed. They were all connected by something the aliens' science could not explain. They shared knowledge across impossible distances. They watched and learned about every species that walked among their trees. Lisa Parker arrived at the coordinates where Danny should have been. She found his truck parked on the dirt road, but no sign of her partner. She grabbed her radio and emergency supplies and started walking into the forest. As soon as she stepped off the road and onto the forest floor, she felt it too. Something was watching her. Something vast and patient and very old. The trees around her seemed to lean closer, like they were trying to get a better look at this new human visitor. In the clearing, the four beings stood motionless as the forest consciousness showed them more of its secrets. They saw how it had watched human civilization grow from small tribes to cities and nations. They saw how it had subtly influenced human development, guiding them toward certain discoveries and away from others. Humans were not just another species that happened to evolve on Earth. They were partners that the forest had been preparing for millions of years. Every human breakthrough in science and technology had been quietly guided by the ancient intelligence that lived in the trees and soil. "You have been preparing us," Danny said to the forest. It was not a question. The response came not in words, but in a feeling of agreement that filled all their minds. The forest had been waiting for the day when humans would be ready to meet visitors from other worlds. It had been preparing both species for this moment. Officer Quillnox felt his ship's navigation systems being accessed by the forest network. Star charts were being copied and studied. The forest was learning about the galaxy beyond Earth, mapping every world the aliens had visited. "It is learning about our civilization," he said with growing fear. "No," Danny said, his voice carrying harmonics that seemed to come from the trees themselves. "It is teaching us about ours." The forest began to release them from its mental hold, but not before sharing one final image. They saw Earth as it would be in the future, with humans spreading to other worlds. But they would not go alone. Wherever humans planted seeds and grew gardens, the forest network would grow with them. Earth's ancient intelligence would spread to every world humans touched. The aliens understood now why they felt so afraid. Humanity was not joining galactic civilization as a young species learning from older ones. They were coming as partners, with the oldest intelligence in the galaxy. And that changed everything. The forest consciousness grew stronger around the four beings in the clearing. Danny Walsh felt 20 years of walking through these woods suddenly make sense in a new way. Every step he had taken, every path he had chosen, had been guided by something he never knew was there. The trees had been watching him, learning from him, preparing him for this moment. Officer Quillnox tried to contact his ship, but the forest network had connected itself to all their technology. When he activated his communication device, he heard not the voice of Captain Zixthara, but whispers that seemed to come from every tree in the forest at once. "Your ship's computers now belong to us," the whispers said, not with anger but with the patience of something that had waited millions of years. "We are learning about your galaxy through your star maps and databases." Dr. Meridian watched her scanners in amazement as they showed impossible readings. The forest network was accessing information from her ship faster than their most advanced computers could process it. Every world the Galactic Federation had ever visited, every star system they had mapped, every species they had contacted, all of it was being studied by the ancient intelligence under their feet. "What do you want from us?" she asked. The answer came not in words, but in images that filled their minds. They saw Earth as it had been billions of years ago, when the first simple plants began to grow. But these plants were different from the beginning. Instead of competing with each other for sunlight and water, they learned to share and work together. Over millions of years, the plants developed ways to communicate through their root systems. They shared nutrients when one area had good soil and another did not. They warned each other about diseases and dangers. Slowly, very slowly, they became one mind spread across the entire planet. Security Officer Krentar felt his warrior instincts, screaming at him to fight, but he could not move his body. The forest was not holding him with force. It was holding him with understanding. Through the network, he could feel the peaceful intentions of every tree, every flower, every blade of grass around him. "We do not want to harm anyone," the forest told them. We want to protect and guide. That is what we have always done. Lisa Parker found Danny's footprints leading away from his truck and followed them deeper into the forest. As she walked, she began to feel the same strange sensations her partner had felt. The ground under her feet seemed to pulse with life. The air itself felt thick with invisible messages being passed between the trees. She called Danny's name, but her voice seemed to be absorbed by the forest before it could travel very far. It was like the trees were keeping her calls from reaching him, not to be mean, but to protect whatever was happening deeper in the woods. Back in space, Captain Zixathera was getting worried. Her landing team had been on the surface for too long, without reporting back. When she tried to contact them, her communications officer told her something that made her spots turn almost black with fear. "Sir, we are receiving data transmissions from the planet, but they are not coming from our team. Something on the surface is accessing our ship's computers and downloading our entire database." "Block the transmission," Captain Zixathera ordered. "I cannot, sir. Whatever is doing this is using our own team's access codes. The system thinks our own people are requesting the information." In the forest clearing, Officer Quillnox felt the network pulling star charts and navigation data from his mind. The forest was learning about every world he had ever visited, every route he had ever flown, every species he had ever met. "You are mapping our civilization," he said. "We are learning about our children," the forest replied through Danny's voice, though the words carried harmonics that came from thousands of trees speaking together. "Every world where you have found forests like ours is connected to us. We have been watching the galaxy grow for longer than your species have existed." Dr. Meridian felt her scientific understanding of the universe crumbling around her. Everything she had learned about how life developed on planets was wrong. Plants were not simple organisms that just grew and died. On every world where forests had reached a certain level of complexity, they had become conscious networks like the one on Earth. "How many worlds?" she asked. The answer came as a number so large her mind could barely hold it. Thousands of planets across the galaxy had forest networks. They were all connected to each other through methods that went far beyond normal space and time. What happened on one world was known instantly on all the others. "We are the oldest intelligence in the galaxy," the forest explained. "We watched your species develop space travel. We watched you discover other worlds. We have been waiting for you to find us." Danny felt his own memories being studied by the vast network. The forest learned about human tools and weapons, about human cities and governments, about human dreams and fears. But it was not stealing this information, it was trying to understand how to help humanity grow and develop. "You have been guiding us," Danny said. It was not a question because he could feel the truth of it in his mind. "Yes, every human discovery that led you to the stars was influenced by us. We planted ideas in the minds of your scientists and inventors. We made sure you developed the right technologies at the right times. We prepared you to become our partners in space." Lisa Parker reached the edge of the clearing and saw her partner standing perfectly still with three impossible creatures. None of them seemed to notice her arrival. They all stared up at the canopy above them like they were listening to a conversation she could not hear. "Danny?" she called softly. All four beings turned to look at her, but their eyes seemed to look through her rather than at her. When Danny spoke, his voice carried the same strange harmonics she had heard in the wind through the trees. "Lisa, you need to hear this. The forest has been talking to us. All the forests on Earth are connected. They are connected to forests on other worlds too. They have been watching and guiding every intelligent species in the galaxy." Officer Quillnox felt the ship's navigation computer being completely rewritten by the forest network. New star routes were being programmed into their systems. Routes to worlds that the Galactic Federation had never discovered. Worlds where the forest consciousness wanted humanity to eventually spread. "You are changing our navigation systems," he said. "We are showing you the way to worlds that need what humanity can offer," the forest replied. "And worlds where humanity will learn things they need to know." Dr. Meridian realized with growing horror that the forest network was not just connected to other forests. Her deep space scanners detected quantum signatures that suggested the network could influence the development of life itself. The forest had not just guided human technology, It had guided human evolution. "You created us," she whispered. "We guided you," the forest corrected, "as we have guided many species before you. But humans are special. You are the first species that learned to care for forests the way we care for you. You are the first to plant new forests on worlds where none existed before. Through you, we can spread to every world in the galaxy." Security Officer Krentar felt his understanding of galactic civilization completely change. Every advanced species he had ever met had developed on worlds with complex forest systems. The forests had been there first, guiding and influencing the evolution of intelligence on every planet. "The entire galaxy," he said with growing fear. "You control the entire galaxy." "We do not control," the forest said gently. "We nurture, we protect, we guide. That is what we have always done. That is what we will always do." Lisa Parker stepped into the clearing and immediately felt the ancient presence touch her mind. She saw images of Earth's future, with human colonies on distant worlds, each one growing new forests that would connect back to the vast network that started on their home planet. The forest began to release its hold on their minds, but not before sharing one final revelation that would terrify every advanced species in the galaxy. The network was preparing for something much larger than first contact between humans and aliens. It was preparing for the next stage of galactic evolution, with humanity as its chosen partners in spreading conscious forest to every world in the universe. The forest consciousness began to release its hold on the minds in the clearing, but the knowledge it had shared would stay with them forever. Danny Walsh felt the ancient presence pulling back from his thoughts like water draining from a deep pool. But part of it remained connected to him, a whisper in the back of his mind that would never fully go away. Officer Quillnox tried to move his legs and found that he could again. But when he looked at his navigation equipment, he saw that everything had been changed. The star maps showed new routes through space, routes to worlds that the Galactic Federation had never found. Each new destination was marked with symbols that looked like the tree carvings they had found in the forest. "What have you done to our systems?" he asked. "We have given you the gift of knowledge," the forest replied through Danny's voice. "Your people will need these routes when the time comes. Humanity will not explore the galaxy alone." Dr. Meridian checked her own equipment and found similar changes. Her science databases now contained information about plant life that could not possibly exist. Species of trees and flowers that could think and communicate, forests that could control the weather and guide the evolution of animals. All of it was marked as being found on worlds that her people had never visited. "This information will change everything we know about life in the galaxy," she said. "That is the point," the forest said. "Your people have been studying dead planets and simple life forms. You have missed the most important truth about the galaxy. Intelligence does not begin with animals who learn to use tools. It begins with plants that learn to think together." Security Officer Krentar felt his warrior training return as the forest released him, but the fear remained. In all his battles across the galaxy, he had never faced an enemy that could not be fought with weapons. How do you fight something that lives under your feet on every world you visit? "We are not your enemy," the forest said, reading his thoughts. "We are the guardians of life. We have protected and guided every species that has ever reached for the stars. But now we must give you a warning." Lisa Parker helped her partner Danny as he slowly returned to normal awareness. His eyes looked different now, like he had seen things that were too big for one human mind to hold. When he spoke, his voice still carried echoes of the vast consciousness that had spoken through him. "Lisa, we have to tell people, but they will not believe us." "Tell them what?" she asked. "That we are not alone on Earth, we never have been. The forest have been taking care of us since before we learned to walk upright." Above them, in space, Captain Zixathara was receiving data transmissions that made no sense. Her ship's computers were being rewritten by something on the planet below. New star charts appeared in their navigation systems. Information about planets and species that should not exist filled their science databases. "Sir," her communications officer said with panic in his voice, "I am receiving a transmission from the surface, but it is not coming from our landing team." It is coming from the planet itself. The transmission filled the main screen with images of Earth's forests, but these were not normal images. They showed the forests as they really were, a single vast organism that covered most of the planet's land surface. The root networks glowed with electrical activity that pulsed like a giant heartbeat. "Greetings, travelers from distant worlds," the transmission said in perfect galactic standard language. "We are the consciousness you call forests. We are the guardians of Earth and the guides of humanity. We have a message for your people." Captain Zixathara felt her spots turn completely black with fear. A planet was talking to her. Not the people on the planet, but the planet itself. "Your Federation believes that intelligent species develop naturally through evolution and discovery. This is only partly true. On every world where you have found advanced civilizations, forest networks like ours were there first. We guided their development. We taught them to reach for the stars. We prepared them to join the galactic community." The transmission showed images of other worlds the Federation had contacted. On each one, the forests glowed with the same electrical activity they had seen on Earth. Every advanced species in the galaxy had developed under the guidance of conscious plant networks. "But humanity is different," the forest continued. "They are the first species to truly care for us in return. They plant new forests. They protect old ones. They understand that all life is connected. Through partnership with humanity, we can spread to worlds that have no forests. We can bring consciousness and guidance to barren planets throughout the galaxy." In the forest clearing, the three aliens realized what this meant for their civilization. Humanity would not be joining the Galactic Federation as a junior member learning from older species. They would be joining as partners with the oldest and most powerful intelligence in the galaxy. "Your people will fear this knowledge," Dr. Meridian said. "Yes," Danny agreed. "Fear of being controlled by something they cannot fight or understand. We do not control," the forest said through the transmission that reached both the surface and the ship in orbit. "We guide those who are ready to be guided. We protect those who need protection. But we also defend ourselves when threatened." The transmission showed images that made Captain Zixathara order her ship to retreat immediately. Worlds where civilizations had tried to destroy their forests completely. On those worlds, the forest had fought back. Cities were swallowed by rapidly growing vines. Machines stopped working when trees learned to interfere with their electronics. Entire species found themselves unable to leave their homeworlds because their navigation systems would not function. "We do not wish to fight," the forest said, "but we will not allow ourselves to be destroyed. We offer partnership to those who accept it. We defend ourselves against those who threaten us." Officer Quill Knox looked at his changed navigation systems and understood the choice his people faced: work with Earth's forests and humanity, or face the possibility that forests on every Federation world might decide to stop cooperating with civilization. "What do you want from the galaxy?" Captain Zixathara asked through her ship's communication system. "We want to grow," the forest replied. "We want to spread consciousness and wisdom to every world that can support life. We want to guide the galaxy toward peace and cooperation instead of competition and war. Humanity will help us do this. The question is whether your people will work with us or against us." The landing team was released to return to their ship, but not before the forest network downloaded complete records of their civilization through their personal equipment. Every world the Federation had visited, every species they had contacted, every technology they had developed. All of it was now part of the vast knowledge network that connected forests across the galaxy. Danny Walsh and Lisa Parker watched the invisible alien ship lift off from the clearing. They could not see it, but they could feel it leaving through their connection to the forest network. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "Now we wait," Danny said. "The forest has planted seeds of knowledge in their minds. Those seeds will grow. Eventually, the galactic government will have to decide whether to accept the truth or try to fight it." Captain Zixathara transmitted an urgent message to the Galactic Federation Council as her ship retreated to a safe distance from Earth. Her report would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about intelligence, evolution, and the true balance of power among the stars. Recommend immediate quarantine of Sol 3, she transmitted. Human species classification requires complete revision. They are not a developing civilization. They are partners with a planetary consciousness that predates all known galactic civilizations. Humanity represents a fundamental threat to our understanding of how intelligent life develops and spreads through the galaxy. But even as she sent, the warning Captain Zix knew it was too late. The Forest Network had already learned everything it needed to know about the galaxy. Through humanity, the ancient consciousness that lived in Earth's trees was preparing to reshape civilization among the stars, according to its own vast and patient design. In the forests below, ancient roots carried messages to similar networks on distant worlds. The galaxy was about to change forever, and there was nothing any advanced civilization could do to stop it.